I decided to go to the mountains. And the idea was to take a trip with my dog, Lullaby, and spend some time with her, and do a kind of experiment to see if I could learn to talk with her. I had learned that rat terriers could understand about 500 words, and I wanted to see which ones they were. Now, terriers are working dogs, and they're all about security, and they're bred to protect borders. And so they do constant perimeter checks, looking for any suspicious holes, or breaks in the wall, or little irregularities. So Lullaby did her rounds around the house every day, and she also does a bit of herding, so when new people come into a room, she taps them on the knee with her nose to take a running count, and then she trains her eye on the door, keeping track of the motion in and out of the room. But if someone leaves the room, she can't subtract. Let's see, 10 minus 1 would be... And so she has to start counting all over again from the top. This is a really time-consuming job. Now I took Lullaby to California, up into the northern mountains, to a little isolated cabin near a Zen monastery. And they brought food up from the monastery every few days, but we never actually saw anyone. The bread and the vegetables and the supplies just appeared once in a while out by the gate. So it was an ideal situation for an experiment like this one. It was February, and the mountains were covered with tiny wildflowers. And every day was so beautiful. We just got up and went out, and it was so dazzling and peaceful, and such a huge, tall sky, and a very thin, pale blue air, and hawks circling. So every morning, we just headed out and started walking, and what happened was, more or less, beauty got in the way of the experiment. It was just so beautiful up there that I just forgot about the whole project. Really just slipped my mind. And most days, we walked down to the ocean, which took several hours, and we almost never saw anyone on the trails. And Lullaby would trot in front of me and on the path, checking it out, doing a little advance work, a little surveillance. And for fun sometimes, she would drop back and hide behind a rock. And I would turn around, come running back up the path, calling her name, and then she would jump out from behind the rock and just laughing her head off. And then we just keep on going and sort of goofing around and checking out plants and lying down and having snacks and carrots. Occasionally, out of the corner of my eye, I'd see some turkey vultures circling in this very, very lazy way up in the sky. And I didn't think much about it. And then one morning, suddenly there they were swooping down right in front of me. And I could smell them before I could see them, this wild and super funky draft of air, like somebody's really, really bad breath. And I turned around and they were dropping down through the air, lowering themselves straight down vertically like helicopters with their claws wide open, right on top of Lullaby. And it seemed impossible that they could just hover like that. And then I realized that they were hovering because they were in the middle of changing their plan. This white thing that had looked like a tiny white bunny from 2,000 feet up was turning out to be just a little too big to grab by the neck. And they were hanging there for a moment, weighing it, calculating, figuring it out. And then I saw Lullaby's face. And she had one of these brand new expressions. And first was the realization that she was prey, and that these birds had come to kill her. And second was a whole new thought. It was the realization that they can come from the air. I mean, I never thought of that. A whole whole 180 more degrees that I'm now responsible for. It's not just the stuff down here, the roots, the grass, the trees, but all of this, too. And the rest of the time we were in the mountains, out on the trails. She just kept looking over her shoulder and trotting along with her head in the air. And she had a whole new gait, really awkward, not with her nose to the ground, following the smells, but pointing, straight up, sniffing, sampling, scanning the thin sky, like there's something wrong with the air. And I thought, where have I seen this look before? And then I realized it was the same look on the faces of my neighbors in New York in the days right after 9/11, when they suddenly realized, first, that they could come from the air, and second, that it would be that way from now on. It would always be that way. And we had passed through a door, and we would never